Howdy. Welcome to another weekend live stream here on the TeleDynes YouTube channel. So I'm gonna just hang out today a little bit. Don't really have too much to cover. Still working on that other video. Good evening. But yeah, it's been a crazy week. Had a bunch of gigs. Again, like I said last time, it's towards the end of the month. It starts to slow down just a little bit, and then I can get to some more videos. Oh, you saw the Stray Cats? Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, unfortunately, they were playing, they played yesterday, I think, somewhere in relatively close to me. Unfortunately, I had an event to play, so I wasn't able to get tickets for that. Exactly. Yeah, up here in New England, you know. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've never seen him as all together. I've seen Setzer, of course, by himself many times, and then seen him with Slim Jim, but I've never seen him with Lee. Yeah, make hay where the sun shines. You know, got all the in this time of year up north. You know, this is when all the gigs happen, especially if you're near the the coast at all, where you have like beach town tourism. There's just so many and almost an endless amount of gigs. It seems no shortage of work for sure. But usually after Thanksgiving, that's kind of when things start to slow down a little bit. Depends. Sometimes there are some Christmas shows and holiday shows and that sort of things, which we do have a few. And then, of course, New Year's Eve can be really big, regardless. And then January is pretty much dead. Even if you play shows, they're kind of slow and of course cold and saw them in their first national tour back in the '80s with that was my '80s. Wow, cool. It's pretty awesome. So just kind of hang out and chat about whatever comes up. And back when we were all young, yeah, I had some things about jazz. No, not necessarily jazz, but just chord practice tips and different things. Teaching, I've noticed either people that are into they're into chord playing or they're into or lead playing, and it's good to be able to do both. I think. But one little guitar riff that always helped me, especially with the jazz chord stuff, where you can almost get finger tied, is to this little riff here, actually from a Stray Cats tune, that Drink That Bottle Down, that has these jazzy type chords in it. And those, especially this little section right there, just that, where you're going back and forth between a major 7 and a minor 6. It's kind of like inversing your hand, up, 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 and it's just a good way to kind of practice that. And that's another thing too, is that a lot of jazz chords are playing, or backup chords, not necessarily jazz. They're just simplified versions of the same chord. So if you're gonna, oh, I'm sure he did sound good. I wonder wonder if he's used the 201 Space Echo or the 3. I've noticed in a couple of photos lately that he's been using a 201 instead of a 301. But I guess he's got multiples. I don't know how the logistics work, if they have things set up around the country, or I know he's dragging a bunch of them because they tend to be uh, temperamental. Oh, this? Yeah, that's just a 7th. But the way it's played is a little different. And the reason for that is it's the same thing as doing this. There you go. You have a 7th. Let's see if I can see it like that. That's the 7th. This is the 7th. And usually you'll see jazz guys or big band guys will play like this. And then they'll, instead of playing a D minor 7 like this, they'll play like this. Or that form. So instead of this and the bar with that note, they'll just play it like this. Or even with their thumb. And what I would do is I would just sit in front of the TV when I'm watching a show or whatever, and just have the guitar there and just kind of practice the changes over and over and over again. Even back in learning basic open chords, if you're just starting out and you want to get the switch, another good one is classic is go from a D to a D7 and just practice going back and forth. And I don't know if I've showed this before. This was an exercise that a jazz teacher taught me once, is just to put your fingers like this, put your index and ring finger down, and then switch between your middle and little finger. Just go back and forth like that. And that's kind of that was an exercise he told me to do that helps your dexterity a little bit. Exactly. Well, I got him hanging up on the wall here. I just grab him, but the first time I've ever done that before. I don't know if it's good for the necks or whatever. It doesn't seem to. I've had it up there for a couple years now, and it doesn't seem to be harming anything. So, and they come down quite frequently anyway because I'm always playing them. The only one that sits there more is the acoustic, and that's another video too I've got coming up, is kind of like a rundown of different guitars. Just do a little background on the not background so much, but just kind of a gear review on that. I guess it's a Falcon acoustic Rancher. Yeah. This is the first time I've ever had a wall. I've always usually been like stuffed in their cases, and I didn't even have stands for years. They would just have to go back in their cases and get out of the way as much as possible. So I thought, oh, well, this would look pretty cool for a backdrop for the YouTube channel. So I just got those little Hercules stands. It's really hard to find a good guitar stand anyway. I have the Hercules, like the 3 one, but that broke. That didn't take very long, and it kind of fell apart. The safest one are the ones that sit at an angle, like the suitcase stand. That's the best, I think. So let's see. For some other tips for chord playing, of course, when you're playing a 1-4-5, you usually yeah, they all do kind of suck. Playing a 6, so you're playing like a swing rhythm or something. that little jump there. And that goes from a G6 to a B flat 13. You can throw that in the middle of your rhythm playing as opposed to just staying on the one all the time. Just normally what you would do, and then do that 9 descending, flat 9 to the 1. So it's like a raised 1. Dramatically going back down to the 1, then you go to the 4, usually a 9. You can change inversions on that. I mean, you can throw in a little diminished here. Back to the 1. The 5, depending on the song here. That's usually when a lot of this stuff will be defined by the differences between whether it goes from the 5 down to the 4 back to the 1, or whether it does a 2-5-1 or a 6-2-5-1, or it does a or it just stays on the 5. Maybe it does a sharp 5. You after you finish that, do that. So what that basically looks like, you're doing it in another key, say A. It's one of these 9 chords. Raise up that 3rd. Back to the 1. Like a small line garbage can. Was sitting upright. Looked stable. Yeah. Didn't I think I've seen those. I think I've seen those before. Yeah, guitar stands, cables, those are the things you're going to replace, other than strings, of course. Yeah, the was it the guitar? Yeah, I've tried those where it's just the bottom and they sit on the floor and they just rest. They just rest against the back of the little, like a V. Those are very dangerous. I do not recommend those at all. I mean, if you're inside, I guess if that's all you got, that's fine. But I've had a guitar just go straight down, snap the neck off. Was a actually it was my old vintage 74 Tennessean. But then I had it fixed and it played better than it did before. So it ended all's well that ends well, but I definitely would be very careful with what guitar stand you get. The safest ones are the line. They're expensive, but if you can put like 3 or 5 or whatever in a guitar rack, because they can it's not going to fall out. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, so we got the next one, the Good Rockin' Tonight, coming out, and I'll be hard at work. This week is a little less for me, just my regular my day job and other work and gigs are a little slower this week, so I'll have more time to dedicate to the channel and get more videos out there. But I appreciate everybody commenting and liking the videos. That the riff video got up to about 4K in views, which is pretty good. I was surprised that video, seeing the other ones, that it kind of surpassed the other ones in viewership. But Day job is really a bunch of different little jobs more than it is a one job. I do AV for a church, and then I do audio editing, and then I also do teach guitar. That's kind of my, and then this isn't really a job. This is for fun, but so I wear many little, and then play gigs, of course, too. So it's like all of these little things kind of equate to a job, so to speak. But it allows for flexibility. And they all kind of relate to one another in some capacity. I did do something else. I did. I think it's definitely the channel's growing. The channel is definitely growing, which I appreciate. Again, everybody for subscribing and tuning in, and it's a lot of fun. I broke out the Space Echo the other day. I got to take it in. Actually, it's acting a little strange. The reverb, which I actually really like in the 301, kind of is hissing or crackling. I thought it was the amp at first, and then I turned the reverb off, and I'm like, oh, it's something in there. And then I was playing on a stage yesterday that was a little wobbly, not exactly the most stable thing, and I went down with my foot and bounced the stage, and all of a sudden the reverb cleaned up. I went, huh. So then I jumped on the stage again, and it crackled back. So there's something loose in there that's causing that. It's causing that to happen. But I did change the settings up a little bit on that thing. So the video that I showed the settings for the delay, I changed it a bit, and I think it works better this way. They have a little bit more control over the volume live. Still working out the details on that. The but if I mostly use the Mystery Brain live with a on the pedal board because it just, yeah, we're up to 3.5K, which is great. Hey Richard, what's going on? Just like an old TV. Yeah, exactly. The other amp that the one of the Basemans, I've had it taken it in for service several times, and um, it sometimes it'll start up and it'll sound like an old TV, like the old tubes coming up. Well, I mean, it does as an old amp anyway, but usually amps just kind of warm up and have a nice warm sound and a little bit of a hum, and then that's it. But this one just kind of crackles like a radio, and then I just give it a smack on the side of the uh, of the head, and then it's usually fine for the rest of the night once it warms up. Um, but yeah, for the most part, if the weather's good and if I'm anywhere near the outside, or I know I'm playing in a place. Friday night we played a place called the Pub down in Matunic, and it was it was on the water, but it was so muggy and hot in there that you're just drenched playing. It was just so the dew point was just so high. Um, so something like that, I never bring the tape echo out. I did it once. Was kind of the fog was rolling in, and we were sort of kind of playing outside, but it was the doors were open, but we were close to the outside. And I turned the Space Echo on, and I just play a chord, and it sounds like an organ or a drag, like everything's warbling it slightly off pitch. I went, oh my god, that's the tape dragging. Everything was just the pads. Everything was so wet from the dew that it just it slowed the tape down. And of course, I took it back, cleaned it up, and it's fine. But it really well, I'm not going to do that again. Let's see. So I talked about a little bit about chords. I mean, if you ever run across a chord that's different, you've never played it before. Like when I first came across this chord, major 9. Oh yeah, East Coast humidity is the worst. Eve, it's worse here in Rhode Island than it is in Florida. I guess maybe unless you're actually on the coast. But in Central Florida, it's not that bad. Still hot, and it rains every day, but it's up here in New England, it's especially in Rhode Island, really close to the ocean state, after all. But if you're playing this, yeah, that took me a little bit to get my head around. Yeah, Philly, New York too. You just kind of have to get that position is great because if you have this one, if you move that same shape down, you get a major 9 here. Move it down, you get a 9. That's the A9, the 4 and the 9. So it's another way to play a 9 chord is here. Looking for different inversions of the chord. If you instead of playing just this version of the chord all the time, or that. See it better there. Those are the go-tos. This one doesn't have the root in it. You can always just kind of lower your little finger here and hit the root on the top. Makes a nice ending chord too. You don't want to use 6/9 chords. But you can also play that A up here. Of course, you can play it like this too. That way, if you're playing down here in F, right, you don't have to play way up here to hit an F9. You can just play it right there. It's the same inversion anyway. It's just a different way of playing it. Oof. 5th floor. Well, I lived in Williamsburg, right next to Bushwick in Brooklyn for a little while, and that, I don't really remember whether it was, I spent so little time in my apartment because I was working constantly just to be able to rent said apartment. And it, there was living with 2 other roommates and crazy times. But yeah, I do remember it being quite warm one summer, or the only summer I was there for, I was only there for a year or so I didn't live there very long. But I worked most of the time in, it's cheap. Anybody can live in New York City. Well, yeah, Manhattan, forget about it. But Brooklyn, even then, was up there. But I worked at a place called Rudy's Music Stop in Manhattan, and that was up on Music Row, whatever that was, 47th, I think. Right now, it's gone now, but I used to work in the guitar repair shop up on the 3rd floor. 3rd floor, 4th floor, one of those, whatever. That was fun. a few musician, celebrity. Played an old, got to play an old Les Paul. It was one of the first black triple pickup Les Pauls that were made. It was, so I want to say it was a 56 or a 58 or something like that. And they had told me, they said, this guitar is worth $250,000. First they said, hey, you want to try it? Because they just finished setting it up. I'm like, oh, wow, this plays really nice. It sounds great. Oh, what is this? Oh, this is a 50 whatever, and it's worth $250,000. I went, oh, here you go. Take it back. But yeah, it was cool. Couple of old Gretsches, nothing crazy. Never got a chance to play like a Super 400 or a like an old 59. Not there anyway. I went down. I played a couple in Nashville, but it's not worth it. It's not really worth playing getting the old vintage ones. Tellys hold up pretty good. The Gibsons are fairly decent. The Gretches, no, definitely not. Unless you have a lot of money to put into it. Yeah, Sam Ash. What was the other one? Manny's Music. And I think that's the only one only ones I can remember. I want to say Manny's they had the Gretches. Rudy's had a few, and the Sam Ash never carried Gretsch. Um, I remember when I first started playing, I wanted to get a Gretsch guitar, and I saw one of these actually sitting at a place called Thoroughbred Music in the 90s. I think Sam Ash bought them out. But then when they did, they dropped the Gretsch distribution, so they became really hard to find in the 90s. Where I am, there's a couple of guitar centers. uh, there was a bunch of independent stores, but a lot of them are closing. Um, there's this place in not too far from me. I think they're still there. They're more of a band, concert band stuff. So it's not really a guitar store, but they do have a few. Most music stores do. And there's another one, technically in Massachusetts, but you know, really close. Yeah, that would probably sound fine as long as the electronics held up. It's really the frets that go. Um, they'll just start popping out of the fingerboard and deteriorating and crumbling and everything else. And so you have to usually get it refretted, and electronics would probably have to be redone or rewired, but that's not that big a deal to do. Um, it's the depending on how the wood is held up, it's the fret that's gonna be questionable of whether it can be done or not. Usually can be. But that costs, at least another grand or more on top of the cost of the guitar itself. Let's see what else. Yeah. So playing some of these chords like this, you play like a seventh like that, or D like that, and you're only playing 4 strings as opposed to playing 6 strings. So if you're backing up a larger band, it's just a little less full, but it adds a little bit of space in there for the rest of the band to kind of fill in the sound. So you're not a little less muddy, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Like a 6, you can play like this, of course. Major, minor. You can play it like this as well. Wow, 35 and 98. Wow. Or 88. Yeah, that's good. Now I think they're in 10, something like that. That's another thing. You've probably seen that before. That's 6. It's like the bottom two here. Almost kind of like a backwards 6/9 on here. That's a 6/81. Oh, okay. Cool. A minor. G minor 7. C7. That's only 3 notes. That's really all you need. Add the 5th on the top. And it's a little less muddy, like I said, to back, especially if you're backing up a larger band, if you're in a larger group or something like that. And then it allows you to go back, even if you're in a trio, you can go back and forth between full big chords and few note chords like that. Yeah, the smoke. Yeah, I think that's going to be my next one. I was looking at this. Yeah, the modern Gretsch, it's just reliable. It's just reliable. The ebony fingerboard, yeah. That's the reason why I don't want to go with. I just love ebony. The hot rod is rosewood. Yeah, the new ones are rosewood. The blue one is ebony, which is why I wanted it. Because they would go back and forth with the hot rods. The first hot rods that came out were um, rosewood, and then they changed it somewhere along the line. But they kept that first line for several years. Then they came out with these in, I want to say 2014 or 15, something like that, and they switched to ebony, which was really nice. But now they're back to rosewood again. I agree. I think the ebony does sound crisper. I just like the way it feels. Um, Not that you're really touching the fingerboard all that much, but a little bit, especially when you're bending the string. That's where I really feel it. Then, if you're here, the pads of your fingers are kind of just brushing the bottom of the fingerboard a little bit. And rosewood usually has a lot of little, can be a little rough. It's got a lot of divots or um whatever. There's a better word for what I'm trying to describe, but you can usually see it, especially if the guitar's a little older. Gretsch does a pretty good job of sourcing pretty dense cuts of wood. Even with the rosewood, it's pretty decent. But I remember playing a rosewood fingerboard. I was on a Tele or a Strat, I think, and I just like would scrape that rosewood, and I could feel the little bumps all over the fingerboard, and didn't really think anything of it until I played an ebony fingerboard, and I went, "Ooh, that's really nice." So, yes, Kingwood. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, it is. That's right. You were talking about that a few streams ago. Yeah, exactly. The rosewood divots or veins. Yeah, yeah. So you can feel that when you're bending the string. So I just never really cared for that. Once I saw that the ebony doesn't really have that. Um, I don't mind the maple necks on tellies either. That's fine. That's just as that works pretty well. At least the one I've got, the maple neck. Yeah, I overthink things as well. It just happens. um, let's see. Oh, here's another little run. Of course, everybody's heard that, and it's just based on the G major scale. Any key, but I'm just using G. And you can keep going with it and play all these notes here. And there are other places on the neck where you can kind of do runs like that, but I find that little the C-based shape wherever on the neck is the easiest place to do that. No. And the scale just kind of falls right into place on the 4 frets there in that little space. If you're an F or G or whatever, it doesn't matter what key you're in. But so when you think of a G, you're in C, or if you're in D and the D is the 4, you know, you can play off of that. Yeah, that's what I usually will go right. Yeah, play an arpeggio off the D. It's both the D shape and the C shape. Because the D is the C. Just the full chord is here. But that playing it this way as a bar shape where you're not playing the top strings, you're keeping those muted. You can bar it with your index finger on the top and get the whole chord. Move that around, and that's a great one to have. You can just lift up your middle finger, and you get a major 7. So if you're playing in E flat, you don't have to play this all the time. That's always a go-to, like, oh, I'm in E flat, I have to play here. No, you can play it right here. If you're playing a major 7, lift it up. You can put the 3rd on the top or not, instead of having to be locked into this all the time. And you got your 7ths right there. 9s. All that. And you don't have to be locked into these power chord forms all the time. Oh, standard tuning. Yeah, me? Yeah, standard tuning. Yeah, the Les Pauls, they have a finish on it. Maybe it was a Les Paul that I tried that had that. No, it was definitely an older Telly, I think. Anyway, I did have a Les Paul, like a studio model, for a little while, and I only played it for a couple of songs, so I'm like, I'm not going to keep this thing around if I'm just going to play it on a couple of tunes. Um, but I did enjoy playing it. I was trying to do a little bit more rock oriented stuff, and I didn't have a telly, and I couldn't really find a decent one for a decent price. Usually the Gibsons were extremely expensive, but the tellys were the more reasonable one. But at the time, I found that studio one was more within my price range than a telly, And it was cool, but it ultimately didn't sound great through my basement. And I would have, and I, so I'd bring a separate amp. What did I have? I had one of those practice Princeton's, and then I tried it with a crate amplifier. That one actually sounded pretty good with the Gibson, and then the Vox AC30. But then I'd be lugging two amps around to a gig, and just to get it to sound decent. For some reason, the Gibson just sounds really, I don't know, boxy through the basement. I don't know what it is. Um, the tellies sound okay, a little bright, as you would expect. But the Gretches are a nice medium, happy medium between a Gibson and the and a and a Fender Telly. The orange amps, I was playing one the other day. Actually, I was digging it. It was pretty cool. It was a smaller one. It was just, I forget, looked like probably a one. It might have been a 112, but it seemed had enough flexibility on it, um, that it sounded good. The Gretsch sounded good through it. I think I was playing an orange Gretsch through the orange amp. It was pretty nice. I think if I would get a backup amp, I'd probably get something like that. I've because I've had I have a hot rod DeVille, and that thing is so loud. It's so difficult to get it to behave at a show without just blasting everybody else out. And it's a combo, so I can't hook an attenuator up to it. Now, yeah, the Fender amps paired with the Gretches are great. I mean, that's the best. I've never the Bassmans particularly, but the Fender Deluxes sound great. Of course, the old 59s, the 410 model, those are great. Um, was it? It's just getting them loud enough to really get that. Um, oh, cool. Yeah, I don't really. I'll have to look again next time I go to a shop or something. But last time I was in Guitar Center, they really didn't have much in the way of amplifiers. I was looking around, but I didn't really see um, anything crazy. But yeah, the orange. What other amps did I try there? Oh, the Victor. Was it Victoria? I think those are pretty good. They're very similar to an old Tweed Fender. Um, if you want to get something that's still old, point to point, wiring as opposed without a circuit board. I did play through one that wasn't bad. Was it California Tweed from Mesa Boogie? Is actually pretty good compared to um get it compared to, I don't know, some of the smaller Fender amps, on par with the Fender amps. And you could they have a different, like the orange amplifiers. I think the orange amplifiers have this where you can select the wattage, and you can go from 10 or 20 or whatever, and you can get a little bit of a breakup a little bit faster, and it gives you a little bit more sustain at a lower volume. So it's kind of a cool thing. Only thing I notice about amps like that is that when you really go to dig into a chord, it sounds like there's a brick wall limiter on the amplifier, and you can hear things not clipping, but just everything gets kind of squashed, and all of your tone just gets sucked away. And you don't get the amp doesn't really breathe and have that headroom. compared to an old amplifier. Oh, they do have used stuff on Sweetwater. Oh, I usually buy most of the stuff on Sweetwater. I'll go and try it out for real and then buy it on Sweetwater. Sometimes I'll buy it at the shop, but yeah, they're pretty good. I've bought most of my stuff recently, the um, guitars and gear and things I would get on Sweetwater or Reverb. Yeah, down to 1 watt. Wow, for apartment practice, that's pretty cool. That's really nice. It's always tough to get an amplifier, to be able to practice with an amp. I typically don't practice with an amp unless it's through the computer like this, and I can, you know, I'll play with the plug-in. But because just living in apartments, I've never had a tiny amp. I did have one of those. I don't know what happened to it. I had one of those little, mini belt. Um, they look like a little bassman, and they run on batteries, and you can kind of walk around with this thing. I used to have one, but I don't. I don't know what happened to it. That was pretty cool. And a lot of people who want to just walk around, if you play at a restaurant or something like that, the theme parks, people will have those little amplifiers clipped in their belt with a bunch of pedals like hooked to their belt over here on their side, and they'll play the guitar and they'll walk around, and it's got all this delay and flange and all of these crazy sound effects, and they'll play a guitar through it while they're while they're serenading the dinner crowd. Pretty funny. Blues DeVille with a four blues Fender speakers, the original song. Oh wow, I'll have to I'll have to try. I'll have to try to find one. There's a place up here. Um, I haven't been to it yet. You said somebody mentioned guitar shops. Yeah, there is one. It's a place called Empire Guitars, and I've never been there. Everybody says, "Oh, that's the place. That's where all the vintage amps are and guitars and stuff." And I just haven't been over there yet. Yeah, I had a BB King Lucille. Um, wasn't vintage or anything, but it played really nice. It sounded great, but I needed the money at the time, of course, and sold it. Wish I would have kept it, held on to that. That was that played really nice. That was one of my first experiences with the ebony fingerboard, but it has those massive pearl inlays on the fingerboard. A little cube amp. Yeah, yeah. Some of those little battery powered cube amps are great for the if I, subway busking and stuff like that. Yeah, everyone says the blue speakers. That's the way to go. I don't even know what came in mind originally. These Bassmans. They were, I think, it wasn't the original Jensens. I can tell you that it was some other. I think they were just Fender speakers. So I swapped them out with the vintage 30s Celestians, and yeah, they sound great. But it would be nice to have something else. One of these great suggestions. Um, I'll have to I'll go through and I'll have to try to hear it. Of course, the Sweetwater's pretty good, so you can order something, and then if you don't like it, you can just send it back. But these, yeah, just to be able to some of these smaller venues and have something that I don't need to lug this big bassman around, and yet still get a decent tone, which is the reason why I bought the hot rod, but I didn't realize it was going to be that loud. um, it's so loud. Eminent speakers. Yeah, there was some amp I was playing that had those in it. I don't remember which one it was, but don't get the brown. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. What else? Um, I think if I can come up with a different. If you're, depending on the, song you're playing, a lot of rockabilly is going to be 1-4-5, right? And it's easy to fall into this major minor thing all the time, and then stay in this kind of pentatonic box. And which is great. But you can always remember to these little patterns here. If you go to the 4, you don't just have to stay here or switch up here. You can play it right here. Play that scale as well. Or and just add a little bit more, add a few more notes to it, and you can always play any of those passing tones that you're going from the 5th to the 4th to the 3rd, or back up to the 1 or the 7th, and you can kind of play all those little notes in between, instead of just bouncing back and forth between this all the time. And this little riff, I did play it in one of the Rockabilly Riffs video. You can also do that on the low string too, by the way. Same thing. So if you're in D and you go to the and you're on the 5 or whatever, or the G, you don't have to go way up here if you want to play something a little lower. And I always try to keep in mind to kind of equal amounts, low end, high end, back and forth, not to get stuck too much down in the low register, and don't get stuck too much in the high register where your entire solo is just, all up in the upper register. And play around with different, just walk down a scale. Whatever you're trying to do. You can use the pentatonic if you want, or the major pentatonic, and low, high, low, high. So I always just try to keep that in mind when I'm playing a solo. If I find myself playing really up high, to mix it up and play down low. It can be tricky sometimes in a live situation, especially if you're trying to play quiet. The low notes will get lost, and you'll start playing down here, and they're like, I can't hear it. It just kind of turns to mush. And every room is different. I played a gig yesterday that sounded great. The room was great, and it was wood for the most part in the room, and that's usually a good sign. Oh, take care. All right. Thanks again for hanging out. Um, yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't. The Good Rockin' Tonight video. Yeah, it's coming along. I just have to. The tab's done and everything. I just have to get a couple other things recorded, uh, and then of course edited. But it's pretty. It's pretty much should be on track for the next week or so to get released. But this week I'm in the process of recording multiple videos at once. I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff so I don't have to keep jumping back and forth between recording the video and then editing and then tablature and this and that. So I'm not um, separating what I'm trying to do too much. So I can do all recording one day, all tab another day, all editing another day, and that way I can just keep rolling along. Of course, it's very easy to forget something, and then you got to go back and re-record and do a pickup, as they call it. Make sure your hair is in the same position. No, just kidding. Um, yeah, continuity, right? Well, little things like some of the videos, if you notice, um, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the little TeleDynes, whatever. I put a little like I guess you would tell a sticker or logo or something just on the bottom there. And the reason was because I looked back. I couldn't see it in the camera, but I usually have when I'm playing, I'll usually have the tab or the sheet music in front of me so I can just make sure that I'm getting it right as I'm recording to it. And I didn't realize it. And I recorded a couple of videos and I went, oh, I can see the bottom. I could see the music stand in the frame. So I said, okay, well, what can I do about that? I didn't want to have to re-record the whole thing, so I just put a little logo on there. Yeah, batching things should make it easy. Yeah, the mud switch. I don't even have mine connected anymore. Doesn't do anything. I had it disconnected. Whoops. Didn't do anything. Yeah, I didn't want to. These things too, the dice knobs, or these have the dice knobs, but it came with regular knobs too if you wanted to exchange them out. But all this is just volume control for the individual pickups, which I think is kind of, I don't know, useless. Hi there. I say Q. Um, yeah, if they were tone knobs, I could see, a use for them. But they're just individual pickup volume knobs. That doesn't really seem like a useful thing. But I think the Smoke has the mud switch. But I was having a lot of electronic problems with it intermittently cutting in and out, and these would get hit, and I'd go, why is it not loud enough? And I'd have to go down here and adjust these things and have to make sure these were open all the way. So I said, you know what, just disconnect all this stuff and just have the pickup selector and the volume knob. That's it. There is a model of this that has a tone knob. It has a tone knob on it, and it's got three. I don't know. I think there is one that has four, like a Gibson, where it's got the two tone knobs and the volume knobs. I don't remember which model that is, but that's pretty cool. But even when I had a Gibson, I never really used the tone knob, so I don't think I really use that at all. But hmm, yeah, the Smoke has the mud switch. I have used it once. I was playing a jazz gig, and I flipped it on to play a couple of solos in the band. They didn't like the harshness of the Gretsch, so I flipped that on, and I had like a solid state amplifier that works well for jazz. So I thought, okay, that that tended to work. That worked better than trying to, you know, dial the amp in to get you that. Yeah, it's supposed to be for jazz. I've just found that it kind of breaks up unpleasantly in in a tube amp anyway. Yep, you can do it with any chord really. Whatever. A lot of that will depend on the pot, because some pots you'll be nothing, 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 and then full. And so getting the right, same thing with the tone knobs too, getting the right pot that has a gradual increase in volume or tone is important, and it's kind of a crapshoot. It's hit or miss. You never know um, whether it's gonna work out. You can do it on pedal steel bends. What, the mud switch? Um, they do. That's right. They do have the tone pot. This one does too. The jazz box back there. It's got a tone knob and a main volume knob. But I usually just keep that. That one sounds jazz just on its own. I don't need to dull it any more than it already is. It's got flat wounds on it, and it needs to be a little brighter. Basically, essentially, yes. It's the original, whatever they call it, whatever the standard ones back then that they put in. They're modeled after the old 59 Filtertrons. Got a little bit more twang to it. A little more high mid sound. It's good. It sounds good, live. I played it again the other day for the first time in a while live, and yeah, it worked. It was great, but doesn't have the the saturation and the power that the Phoenix or the blue one has. I definitely prefer the other ones. Although this one, this one feels comfortable, probably because I've just had it the longest, and it just feels familiar. Um, but the blue one is the closest to that, which is the reason why I wanted to get that. I wanted to get another 6120 style body that I was comfortable with, and the uh, the Phoenix is great, but just I'm just not as comfortable with it. It's fine, but um, it doesn't really affect too many things. But I'm just plus it's just a bigger guitar in general, and a lot of uh, yeah. Well, this, like I said, this hot rod has the ebony fingerboard on it, so that's why I got that one instead of another the the smoke at the time, because I was gonna get the smoke, and then I got one of the. But I really liked the blue. I really liked the way that looked. So, and then I saw that they stopped making it. I was looking on Sweetwater, looking all the time, kept it in my wish list, and then all of a sudden I pulled it up one day and it went discontinued, and I went, oh no! So I better grab that. The Phoenix and the Hot Rod, these two are very similar to each other. Um, the Phoenix just had a little bit more of a mellow tone to it. It's a little bit quieter, not by much, just a little. Um, but it's a little bit mellower. It's very not quite as harsh. Um, and a little bit fuller sounding, a little deeper. So bigger body, a little. That's about the same. Um, but it's just a big guitar in general. And moving around, if I'm a lot of the clubs up here are very small, and the bands usually get stuck in a corner somewhere, and you're on the floor, and you don't have much more space than maybe you know this much, literally this much room. So you can't really turn. I'm right by the crash cymbal on the drummer. If I'm on the his left, and if I'm over on the other side, then I'm right by the ride cymbal. And sometimes my guitar will end up tapping the crash cymbal or something. It's just that it's tough, so I can't really move around. So having that, and I don't want to I don't want to hit the headstock or anything on on the wall or whatever that's in the way playing these tiny gigs. So it's nice when I can play a show where I have a little bit more space. But so one thing I've noticed about New England versus um, any other areas of the country, it's just a lot of the buildings, they're old buildings, and they're just didn't weren't built with that kind of a thing in mind, of course. So, and just not a lot of room. And if they try to put a stage in there, it takes up even more space. And yeah, that'll be next eventually. I'll do a nice big reveal when I get it on the channel. Um, let's see. Um, Another thing you keep in mind is that if you're playing when you're playing in a specific key, don't forget the open strings. You can always, if you're playing in G, you always have that G string. You play around with like this or all of this. A lot of the chicken picking stuff is done in G because for that reason. You're playing based here. So if you're going to play in a different key, just use a capo. You're playing in C, for example. Put a capo on the 5th fret, and you can still do all of that same chicken picking stuff and utilize the open string. Because that's what, partially what makes that chicken picking sound. Although there's the other, but it's still in G. You use that chicken picking scale, you still have to use the open strings, which is G, like this, pick, pick, open. Pick, pick, open, pick, pick, open. And you can keep going with that, but then you're not really playing anything open. And I'm still working on that myself to get that up to speed. When you can do this stuff, that's relatively easy. It's just pull-offs. But yeah, trying to get this other scale back and forth, pick, 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 pull, pick, pick, pull, pick, pick, pull. Yeah, and the Danny Gatton stuff too. I remember a couple of riffs from that. There's this, and you can do the same thing up here. And then this one, play like in the D shape. You play the E, the G, A. It's a fun little riff to throw in. If you're in E, it's great. You just throw that in randomly. Then there's this one too. I always like this one. You're picking on the D string, playing an E down here, and then you're going. You keep that going. And that's a fun little riff to throw in. You can do it anywhere, but I was just using E, you know. Cool if you have it on the bridge pickup. And with that, to get that, I always find that it's good to start with a down pick first. Good to start with the downstroke first, and then play that riff as opposed to trying to start with an upstroke, not a downstroke. Start with the upstroke, so it's up, down, and that's where you would start that riff. So it's getting the picking pattern, and once you find whatever picking pattern you're going to use, just stick to that, and then you'll be able to execute it the same every single time. So I've talked about it before. Alternate picking versus economy picking is the two different styles. If whatever, doesn't matter, whatever style you're comfortable with, if you're used to alternate picking and you've learned to riff that way, then just stick with it that way. If you can't quite get it fluid enough, it's a fast riff, then try switching over to economy picking. And you'll have to relearn how to play the same riff again, and you'll feel like you're just you feel like, well, I know how to play this. Why do I have to, you know, you feel like you're struggling and you're relearning the guitar. But once you get that and you take the time to do that economy picking, it'll transform the fluidity. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. There's this one too. Just keep the thumb going and that's a fun sound. But yeah, with the open strings too, it's you're not in G. If you're in E, you can always pick a partial, like a seventh, but you're picking a partial 9, and you can using your little finger to kind of pull off these strings here. Or here. That you can do in any key. There's nothing fancy about that. Yeah, that just keeping that thumb going just adds a whole new dimension to the play. And with the other, with the Chet Atkins style, of course, you're bouncing back and forth between the, I guess, the Travis style. But not everything requires that, I tend to, when I'm playing over a 9 chord, even if I'm just doing that pattern, I usually bounce between the 1 and the 5. It's okay to, you're going to have the 1 and the 5 barred anyway, so you can always bounce between those two. Now, if you're an open E, obviously, it's just going to be the E, especially if you're here or playing individual riffs over that droning E. The Mystery Train. That's probably still one of my favorite riffs to play. All right. See if I can. What else can I go over? That's funny you mentioned the drop D. I started doing that the other day too. Just playing live. We were playing a song in D. And I turned it down and turned down the D, and then you can play the chord. And it does make the bass very easy. And of course, if you're playing the I finally got the censored version. Yeah, it took me forever to get it. I think too. That's why I kind of You can try to do it this way and keep the thumb going and then start adding this, but I always found it easier to just forget the thumb and just practice this. And then I finally got it. Depends on the riff, though. I would practice with the thumb forever, and I just like every time I go to add the treble strings, just wasn't working. And I just, if you know what the rhythm of the treble strings are, then you just play that at least once or twice. Then you can kind of know what it's supposed to feel like on your fingers. Then you can add. Then the thumb just comes pretty naturally. That's still, I mean, that's the way when we play that song live. That's how I start it. I'll go. Usually drop D. There we go. There's your drop D. So play that. Heard that before. Keep the D going, or play it like that. Yeah, it definitely makes the bass easier. Can do that. And of course, if you still want to play regular chords, you can just move your ring finger down. You can play it like this, or just move your ring finger down to the sixth, the E string, and then you still got your. And then you still have your low A, and then you G. And then you don't have to. Then you can still get all the finger picking stuff in there, or even if you're just playing a chord. You just add in that lower bass note. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Tune that back up for now. Honestly, for whatever reason, don't really play too many songs in D. We have maybe 2 Three now. We started doing some Dave Clark 5, so a couple of their song, one of their songs was in D. But there's not much of a solo there. Although that one might be some kind of, it's a saxophone solo in that song. Like, Can't You See, of Dave Clark 5, that uh, doesn't really have too much in the guitar area. So I kind of have to come up with something that's going to work. But doing a drop D might fix that. I'll mess around with that. Oh, you're very welcome. Again, I appreciate everybody hanging out and checking out the live stream, and of course the videos, and sharing, liking, subscribing, all of that to help push the channel, get it in the algorithm. It's it's a lot of fun for me, and I enjoy making the videos, and I feel like it's been an age since I've sat down and edited a video. But I'll definitely have my fill of it this week. So um, and I have my some of the scripts. I've written a bunch of scripts for some other videos, like the gear rundowns and the history of stuff that I've talked about before, and that I just haven't done any of it because I'm looking at the script and I'm going, I'm never going to remember that. It's going to take me forever to record any of that. So I got I'll have to get I got a little teleprompter coming. It just hooks up to my DSLR camera. Because one of the problems is that the camera that I use, um, um, is a DSLR, and it only runs for about 10, 12 minutes or so until it shuts off. So then I have to get up and restart it. I don't know why it does that. Memory, camera, something or other. Something to do with the way the SD cards record data. Um, and the iPhones, I've recorded a couple of videos with the iPhones, and they record at a higher um, resolution and everything, but that gets you have to have a pretty beefy computer to be able to edit that stuff, which is fine. But um, I can still do it, but it slows everything down quite a bit, and they look funky. I don't know, to me they just look very weird. I like the DSLRs with the prime lenses and stuff. It just looks a little better. Yeah, I mean it depends on what I'm doing. Again, Richard, you're very welcome. Thank you guys again. Yeah, I don't. I The only thing I have a script for is just like the history of in the very beginning, just so I get that right, because I know that I'm going to use certain B-roll and assets to make sure it's going to match up with what I'm talking about. But when I'm actually just explaining the playing, yeah, I just use bullet points for that. So that's easy enough, and that's usually recorded separately from the beginning. But like the history of stuff, I mean that to get it to do something effectively like that, I have to be somewhat organized. And I don't know how long the video is going to be. It's hard to really tell, but um, I'm hoping it's going to be in a decent length. But yeah, if I'm just like the Rockabilly Riffs video, I had just a little bit in the very beginning, and then who's the mom? I don't know. I guess. um. That's funny. Um. Yeah, it's great to grow a little rockabilly community on YouTube and hopefully be able to connect with some other YouTubers down the road and grow the you know, online community as well, and it can translate into the real world and keep people interested and keep the music alive. Um, that's kind of you know, and just live music in general. I feel like us live musicians, real musicians, just need to stick together in general. Um, and I don't like infighting anyway between the rockabilly scene can be a little clicky sometimes. So I I've never really been a fan of that, and I always try to work with as many people as possible. Who if I'll work with you if you want to work with me, and we can make music together and make videos together or whatever, and make it a fun, inviting community for people who want to just enjoy it or dance or they want to learn to play and and uh, get involved more in the roots genre in general, overall roots music overall, whether it be rockabilly, also blues, swing, jazz, some country. Um, Try the parrot community. Okay, yeah, I'm not really. Oh, thank you, Richard. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether people would like that or not. I was just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and see, like, okay, well, let me try that out and see. Um, but yeah, people seem to like it. It weren't nice. Yeah, that's the way it should be. But and for the most part, most people are cool. So, oh, they're very clicky. Yeah, doesn't really benefit anybody because in the long run, all you're doing is just insulating yourself, and then before you know it, people move on, and then it's over. It's gone. It happens. I've seen it happen so many times with like several times since just in the last 30 years, where a little rockabilly scene will pop up, and then they'll get clicky, and it'll stay that way, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then a couple years it's gone. And it's really, it always seemed very silly to me. So I'd much rather have an open community, uh, regardless of what music you are into. Yeah, unfortunately, that's very true, Gizmodus. So, yeah, just having an open community, no matter what music you're into. I mean, teaching lessons lately. I mean, I'll teach anywhere, anything from uh, roots blues to Metallica to Zeppelin to you know um, Kansas, Boston, that sort of stuff. And yeah, I've had many conversations with people that play, in heavy rock bands or even metal bands, and they respect what I'm doing, and I can respect what they're doing, even if we don't particularly like the same genre. Um, 100%. There's a mutual level of respect even across the different genres. Yeah. Yep, ego's left at the door, especially in a band. You're gonna play with that person and hang out with that person. Personality. I would rather play with someone that is eager to play and enthusiastic and has a great attitude, but may not be technically the best player, or and you could maybe somebody else that, yeah, technically they're better than them, but their attitude sucks. So I don't want to be around that, and just makes the whole experience. I do this for fun, you know. We're nobody's making $1 million here, so I um I want to make sure that everyone's having a good time. Eddie Van Halen wanted to learn alternating bass thumb. He couldn't do it. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's got their strengths and their weaknesses. I can't play. I can barely do finger tapping stuff. I'm not great at it. I've just never put the time into it. Um, and you really have to have distortion with that sort of thing anyway, and less of a radius on a neck helps as well. But anyway, yeah, um, a lot of people like to learn that, so I can teach the mechanics of it. But to be able to actually execute it live, I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. I've tried and fooled around after a couple of beers or whatever, but it it just goes like, what are you doing? Nothing comes out of the guitar. It doesn't really work well unless you have some sort of distortion, and I don't typically. Distortion's tough with the hollow body because it'll can be a feedback nightmare very, very quickly. Um, where I do have a tube screamer, but was using it, haven't used it in a while. Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. Thank you. I always try to be um always try to be humble. There's no reason for ego at all. And I want to maintain that same enthusiasm of why I started playing music in the first place. Something about just every time I see this guitar and I pick it up and play it, I get a little thrill, And I want to keep that enthusiasm going and try to, you know, share that with everybody as well. Oh yeah, definitely a little breakup, but I guess more of through the amp naturally, just by cranking the amp a little bit or the input signal a little bit hotter on from the guitar into the amp, but not like a distortion pedal um, that gives you that, like a blues driver or tube screamer or what's that other distortion? I think it's just the Boss distortion, right? Um, yeah, you really have to have that for that. The tube screamer does tend to it sustains the notes nicely, but the volume actually drops quite a bit. And if you keep the level the same and you click on that distortion, it will feed back um, if you're playing at any decent volume. Right, I know. Yep, that's it. Yeah, I just love the sound of the guitar, the sound of electric guitar, particularly Gretsch's. I mean, I've always loved the 50s and 60s sound, which is primarily this. Um, I mean, yeah, there's tellies and duo jets as well, but uh, the duo jets are pretty similar. I mean, you listen real close, you can hear that rounded tone, that hollow round tone from a hollow body is specific. It's unique, but um, to try to get that um, in any other, even with a Gibson, it just doesn't quite have it doesn't have the twang. So you're it sounds a little bit more jazzy, I guess. And they break up real quick. The Gibsons will break up real quick, where Gretches take a little longer. And yeah, the that space echo, trying to get it to break up, you really have to crank that thing, and it can get loud really really fast. That's right, it is chambered. That's right, it is. Yeah, so that would sound pretty good too. Yeah, I'm still duo jet smoke. I haven't really decided yet. Eventually, I'll get both, but um, I do want to get a guitar. I don't care whether it's a hollow body or a duo jet. Something with the what they call the Dynasonics that are kind of based off the old D-Armon pickups to get that sound. Oh yeah, I mean the pickups really are everything. P90s are cool too. Um, they have a unique get that T-Bone Walker kind of sound. You pick up here on the bridge, and obviously these aren't P90s, but oh, I bet it is. There is not a Gretsch. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe you've seen it before. Can't remember the model or the brand. The let me see if I can find it. Pull up nice. Yeah, the Dynasonics. This guy doesn't really. Here, I'll switch to Hugh. I think it's called Hugh Tone Lab Cyclone Junior. Kind of has this retro um, look to it, almost a Jetsons kind of thing. Oh, it says that George Jetson. There it is. That's where I got that. Lindy Fralin pickups in it. Um, Kind of neat. I don't know. I mean, I've never seen one around here, but I guess they're made out in California. But nice. Yeah. These are pretty cool. I mean, it looked pretty cool. I don't know. I don't want to get copyright or anything like that, so I won't play anything. But um, just looking at different styles and different types of guitars, and since we do a lot of retro '60s and the '50s stuff, it would be might be kind of cool to try something like that out at some point. Um, Duesenberg. Is that how you say the Duesenbergs? No, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can look that up. Oh, interesting. Okay, there it is. Cars are coming up. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. James Bond guitar. That's funny. That looks like a bar. Yeah. Ah, they're cool looking. Oh, what's this? The lap steel. I've been looking at trying. I want to get a lap steel at some point. I was looking at the Gretches, but oh, that's interesting. Maybe do something like that. It looked like it had a Bigsby on it too. That would be cool. All right, sounds good. Thank you again, Richard. We'll see you. Next week should be next week's at the normal time. Is at around 4 on the Saturday. So I will see you then, hopefully. Have a good night. I'm gonna thanks. You too, man. Are they expensive? Yeah. I didn't see a price. Oh, here we go. Huh. Eesh. Yeah, they're up there. Yeah, they're up there. Kind of in the Gretsch category. Hey, if they're good quality, I certainly don't mind saving up and getting a decent quality guitar, but one guitar at a time. Yeah, I mean, I just don't really have anything I would sell to put towards another one. I have a Tele, I got a Strat. I love my Gretches that I have, so I have no interest in selling. Oh yeah, that's cool. I'll have to. I'll definitely. I'll save that. I can remember that. It's pretty. There we go. Save that. I can go back to it one day. Because and after a certain point, you get have this, the blue one. That was kind of really to replace this. The Phoenix was a backup to this because I wanted something else. I had a Tennessean, sold it, so now I said, well, I've only got one guitar now, so let me get a replacement. So I got the Phoenix, and then when this started getting older and started getting a little bit more fragile, and saying, I really need to get a backup because this really needs a refret, and I didn't want to be and I really liked the blue one. And then the minute it was discontinued, I grabbed it. So now I have the three. But at a certain point, you're basically just with the Gretches. Yeah, there's little minor alterations here and there, but for the most part, if you're just buying colors, which is cool. But some sort of solid body duo jet and another 6120 standard, and I think I would be good for a long time, just to replace this one really, because it definitely needs a refret. These frets are really, really um, shaved down quite a bit, and you can tell once you start shaving the frets down. Usually by the second fret dress, or what they call G and P, um, grind and polish. You really you get a little bit of life out of there. But when you go to start bending strings after that, they will. It feels like you're basically playing on the fingerboard, and it can be. You don't really get the sustain. I feel as as well as when you have newer frets. So, but that takes a good. It depends on how much you play. For me, um, about 5 to 7 years, I'll need a refret on a guitar, and you can do that about, depending on the quality of the guitar, usually 2 or 3 times, and then usually just run out of wood, and it becomes more difficult to keep the new one. Yeah, that's right, the stainless. I might do that with this one. I mean, it's not a vintage guitar, so why not, right? I just had a buddy of mine put it on his vintage like 60 Telecaster. He put stainless steel frets on there. So why not? It sounds great, plays great, feels great. Um, so yeah, I think when I go, let's see how bad is this? Oh, it's still got some life in it. So, and I don't really play it this one all that much. But when I do eventually get it refretted, probably, yeah, go with the stainless. Um, maybe with the other one too. I don't know. We'll see. I wonder why the like Gretsch or whoever else, they don't really use stainless. Is there any? There's got to be some maker out there that puts stainless on their guitars. Yeah, typically. Um, with refrets, I usually don't. I used to, but I don't have access to a neck jig anymore, so I just take it to someone else, and because that's a good. Even if I had the time, that's a good 24-hour, if not more, process. So because you have to wait at least 24, you have to do all the work, get all the frets out of there, which can take hours, and then by the time you put the new ones in and get them, you have to seal them and put um the whatever, like through like C clamps on a big, usually a 2x4 type size, um forget what it's called, but it's like it's basically just a neck um plate that sits over the top of it, so you can put the C clamps on and keep the frets down, and while they're curing and the glue is drying, then take that off, clip all the frets off, and shave them all off. Then you still got to do the G and P, crown the frets, and get all that stuff set up. So yeah, it's a lot of work. So it's easier for me to just hear somebody else do it, and in about a week or so, I have my guitar back with new frets, and I don't have to worry about it. But the regular just maintenance for the guitar, unless something really goes wrong, I'll usually just fix most stuff myself. Um, yeah, like if not so much on these, but on acoustics, if you don't humidify them, the bridge will eventually start lifting on the top by the saddle. So you have to make sure that's humidified, especially if you live in the Northeast and it dries out in the wintertime. And you can tell if you rub the top of the acoustic, if you feel like it's bumpy, like wavy, that's a sign that the bridge is being pulled up because it's not being humidified. So at that point, you're still okay. Just go ahead and humidify it, and then it should go back to normal. Also, if you're not going to play it for a while, take the tension off the strings and humidify it, and then you should be good. Because otherwise, it'll pull up and could start cracking, and then that becomes a bigger problem. Still fixable, but Yeah, yeah, they have the press that pushes it. You do that with each individual fret, but then you put bar on top of the whole neck and put C clamps on top of that and that holds it there for at least 24 hours. Then take that off, and that's when you can clip the frets off, the ends of it, and then you have to shave those and get them down, and then grind the frets down, which is another several hours of work. And the average fret, I think the average refret is around 300 to 400, depending on the type of guitar. Because the other thing you have to do is pop the nut out. Not that that's a big deal, but yeah, yeah. The and without the neck jig, it's really not practical to do it yourself. I mean, you can, and if you're working with a bolt-on neck, it's not that as big of a deal. But if you're working with something like this, where the neck is part of the body, or it's not really part of it, but it's been dovetailed and glued into the body of the guitar, um, you want to simulate string tension. If you have to plane the neck down, if it's twisted, you're which can happen to a lot of guitars, um, and you can tell just by looking down the neck and seeing if you know you can see the twist, or you'll see one side, the treble side is straight and the bass side has a little bit of a curve in it, and that's because it's not 100% even. So you simulate string tension with a neck jig, and after you pop the frets out, and then you can plane the fingerboard down and get the fingerboard level before you add in the new frets, and that will make a huge difference between um, uh, in the sustain of the guitar after you've redone it. Obviously, planing the frets down and doing the grind and polish will kind of simulate the neck being straight, but over time the neck is going to move and twist depending on how it was humidified, how it was maintained, the quality of the wood, the age of it, all of those factors. Um, Gretches, I got to say, are pretty good. I haven't really repressed like the whole fingerboard. You can. Um, it's just inside the binding here. You have to score it and get the binding off, and that's a lot of work. um, because a lot of times, especially the older guitars, can will start to chip up at the top here, especially on the old Gretches. So you kind of have to replace it, um, or do a neck reset. What happens with acoustics and these hollow bodies is right. This one hasn't really done it yet too much, but right around here, it starts to dip into the body, and there's nothing you can really do about that. So you can't really. The action's always going to be high up here, and again, that comes from not maintaining it properly, and you know, age, bad quality of wood. So this one's pretty good. I've seen it. I see it more in acoustics than I see it in these, but you'll still you'll get the only way to fix that is do a complete neck reset, and that requires heat lamps and a lot of time. Just sitting it in front of the heat lamp and slowly loosening the glue and scoring around gently one little bit at a time until you can get the neck out of there, and then shim it and build it back up and reseat it so you're bringing the neck back up level, or not level but closer, bringing it up a little bit so you can keep the action low. Um, with a Tele or a Strat, it's easier because that can happen a little bit to the neck, but with those, it's just bolt on, so you can take it out, put just a pick on the bottom there, kind of act as the shim, and that will raise the neck up, and you'll be able to get the action low. Yeah, it may not. It may not have that issue because I don't really see it on the, you know, on a lot of newer stuff. It's mostly the um, older stuff and the acoustics. See it a lot in guilds, uh, for whatever reason. Not that they make those anymore, but yep, shim it. Same with a saddle piece on an acoustic. If it's too low, shim it with a piece of veneer. Yeah, that's what they say, and it's so far so good. So this was, I mean, this guitar is now 23 years old since it was made, and this is 99, so it's pre Fender. Um, so it's pretty good. The Fender ones are amazing, obviously, but I guess they did change factories or whatever, but they're still made in Japan. They're still great. Um, so it can drive by itself. Yeah, exactly. Um, it's finally old enough to go into the bars. um, and drink. Yeah. All right. Well. All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun today. I'm glad everybody coming in and hanging out, and um, appreciate all the support, the likes, the subscribes. Some of the few people on Patreon have joined up. I really appreciate that. As the channel continues to grow and I'm able to put more time into the channel, of course, there'll be more into the Patreon as well. But all of that just goes to help to support the channel, whether it's through YouTube or through that, or just simply liking, subscribing, sharing the videos, um, commenting. All of that stuff gets considered engagement by the algorithm, and it pushes the videos into the feed for people who have like-minded interests. So again, I appreciate it, and I'll see everybody next week. Uh, Around about 4 o'clock on Saturday. Again, you can always check out where the stream schedule is going to be. If anything gets changed or altered, I will update that, and you can check that out through the website as well as download. Um, you can check out the tablature and all of that for the videos, and I'll hopefully have a couple more videos up here within the next couple weeks. And if I don't, I will definitely see you guys here. I will be here every week, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. And thank you guys again for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Take care, Gizmodus. See you next time. Have a good one. Yes, album time too. I saw that. Yes, I'll definitely have. We got a couple new tunes coming up soon for that as well. Thanks for remembering. I appreciate it. All right, we'll see you. See you next time. Have a good one.